Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alec Caberna. That's Matt Morrison. And this is Mike Wolfgang, and we're podcasting. That was a great intro. I got to do that one more often. I like that.
I like that a lot.
Right,
Actually.
yeah. I mean, you get the close up on us. That's how we got to roll this from now on.
Yeah.
I know it took a year to figure out a format to come into the show, but hey, we're here. We're figuring stuff out. We got to figure out what to talk about, boys, because sports is quiet at the moment. MLB trade deadline last night didn't get too many major news after we turned things off. There was a lot of movement all in all yesterday, but we finally got the finished details of the Eric Hosmer trade to Boston. San Diego picked up Jay Groom in the trade. Max Ferguson and Corey Rosier got sent to Boston. Logan O'Hoppe was sent to the Angels. Brandon Marsh was sent to Philadelphia. Tyler Mahle did end up getting traded to Minnesota from Cincinnati in return for Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and Steve Hajar. We got a trade again from Cincinnati and Philadelphia. David Robertson went to Philly with Ben Brown going to Chicago. The Mets acquired Darren Ruff from San Francisco for J.D. Davis, Thomas Sabucky, Nick Zwack, and Carson Seymour. Cincinnati acquired Victor Acosta to trade out Brandon Drury to the San Diego Padres. Dodgers got cash consideration sending Jake Lamb to the Seattle Mariners. Tampa Bay got cash consideration sending Brett Phillips to Baltimore. Minnesota picked up Michael Fulmer from Detroit for Sawyer Gibson-Long. Noah Syndergaard did end up getting sent on the move yesterday. He's now in Philadelphia. The Angels got Mickey Moniak and Yadiel Sanchez in return. Jordan Montgomery sent to St. Louis from the Yankees for Harrison Bader. Whit Merrifield to Toronto in return for Samad Taylor and Max Castillo to Kansas City. So that's a big move for Toronto, bringing in talent. Matt, you want to stop and talk about that one? I was just running down
Whit
to someone with
Merrifield gone. Like he was like a career Cincinnati Royal. That's like George
Cincinnati
Brett.
Royal, Matt.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Oh, Kansas City, whatever. Cincinnati.
Well, there used to be a
So
Cincinnati
now
Royal
we got
basketball
something
team.
to talk about.
There you go.
We can make fun of how I screwed up. All right, but like this dude's like George Brett. Like he's like a career. Like he's like Alex Gordon. You know, he's like Kansas City.
Alex Gordon's
Royal
better
blood.
comparison, not George Brett.
Whatever. What's
Gordon's
wrong?
better. Well,
Huh?
George Brett's like an all-time great. So he's not an all-time great yet.
No, but he's like an
Gordon's a good
Alex
comparison.
Gordon.
I like Gordon. It's a good one.
But I mean,
I mean-
7 years with Kansas City, got a career batting average of 286, 74 home runs, and he's got 6 of those on the season.
Cincinnati
Does strike
Royal.
out a lot, though, so he's one of those guys that, is getting up into the later stages of his career, now 33. I mean, this feels like a move for Toronto, just to get one more of those veteran guys that you can rely on towards the postseason.
How about the big trade the Guardians made, man? Huge trade. Huge.
What,
Sandy
none at all?
Leon to the Minnesota Twins.
Well, we'll get up there here in a second. Let me keep running through them. Raziel Iglesias to Atlanta in return for Jesse Chavez and Tucker Davidson to the Angels. And Cam Gallagher was sent to San Diego in return for Brent Rooker to Kansas City. And
Jesse
those
Chavez
were-
is still pitching. That dude's old.
Who?
Those were all
Jesse
the trades
Chavez.
from yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Jeffy Chavez. I sent that in the group chat yesterday. What was it? 10 teams been traded to?
That dude's old.
Yeah, he's old. He was pretty
But-
good with Atlanta, though. I liked him with Atlanta. Got his World Series there last year. But
Of course. But
Yeah, I mean, so those were final deadline moves. And I mean, I guess with that, let's go into standings and how we think this season is going to finish out with some big change-ups on the way. I guess the best place to start is probably the AL East, the most competitive division we have here at the moment. All 5 teams in contention for playoff spot. Yankees seemingly have the division already wrapped up with, a month and a half, 2 months to go in the season. But the next 4, 2 of them likely to get a wild card spot, but you never know how the season turns. So how do we think the AL East is going to break down? I still got the Yankees winning it all. I like Toronto, I think, is the number 1 wild card spot out of the East. But then I might even go Baltimore in third. They've really been shooting in the right direction. Tampa seems to be slowing down here later in the year. Their pitching is definitely coming. It's definitely slowing down. Their offense is lacking production, and that's where I'm seeing Baltimore making that turnaround. I think I like Baltimore to finish third here. Boston stays down at 5, but I got Tampa at 4.
Alec, I agree with you about Baltimore, but the big thing is, I know it was kind of expected to lose Trey Mancini, but I think to me they kind of found a way to lose this deadline somehow, because Trey Mancini, it's a big piece to lose, even if it was coming or not. It's still a big piece to lose. He's been there. That's the veteran that they've been leaning on. They trade George Lopez to the Twins, who are ahead of them by 2-3 games in the wild card standings. I don't like that. There was no reason to really make that trade. I'm not saying they're young guys that have played well this year. I still think they've got a shot. I don't think they're completely out of the race, obviously, with these 2 trades, but I think that affects their chances. I think it affects the teams in front of them. I think that affects, catching Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay didn't make any big trades, but that's a team that's been there the last couple of years. I don't. It's going to be hard for them to jump Tampa Bay, let alone Toronto, and get that second place. But wild card's still in the picture for them. But their trade deadline, I really didn't like what they did.
Well, here's my thoughts when I say I have Baltimore taking third. I'm having Baltimore third, Tampa Bay fourth, but I'm not having Baltimore as the second wild card team in the AL East. I'm not having 2 wild card teams out of the AL East. I think it's almost too competitive at this point. They're going to eat up on one another, and we saw Kansas pretty much just enter Tank City down in the Central. Cleveland or Chicago is going to pull away in that department. Minnesota, I think I kind of like to take the AL Central to finish it, and I think this opens the door. Seattle, Cleveland, and Toronto are the 3 wildcard teams out of the AL East. Every division gets 2 teams this year is the way I'm going in the American League, and that's why I've got Baltimore third. Tampa falls off. Baltimore, they're not going to catch up enough, and they're not going to stay in the race to take 2 wildcard spots for the East.
Matt?
What are your thoughts here on the AL East? And we'll move on to the other ones, even though I kind of just spoiled my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, Yankees got it in the bag. I really do. I do agree with you that Tampa Bay, man, they're a shell of what they were, like, just 2 years ago. They're not that team
How about
anymore.
from just the beginning of the season, like last month?
Yeah, or that, too. G-Man Choi, that dude was, like, incredible at one point. Now it's like, man, what the hell happened to him? I mean, I'm sure he's still getting things done, but he has fallen off. Like, you can definitely tell that. And I don't know. But Toronto, I do like Toronto. That team's been on the rise for years. I said that last year. I think Toronto would be the team next year. We all said it. We all said next year, this is the year Toronto's going to be a pretty good team. And, they still are. I mean, the Yankees are just, stacked to high heaven.
Yeah.
So,
here's the thing. The Yankees are finally living up to the Yankees, right? I mean, this is something that's been coming the last couple of years. You knew at some point this lineup had to have a good season, and this seems to be the one that they're finally putting everything together.
You put Toronto on the AL Central, they're in first. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
So-
based on their record alone right now, they are. But, yeah, I mean, if you put them in that division, they're steamrolling it, too.
I don't know if that's a shot at how good the AL East is or how below average the American League Central is.
The American League Central has always been below average, though.
Yeah,
That's the thing. You look at especially the last 12 years. I mean, the AL Central has a World Series with Kansas City. They have an appearance with Cleveland. But, I mean, there's something about it. They never seem to have good records. You don't need a great record. You don't need to be a 100-win team to win the AL Central like you do to take the East, or sometimes even the West with the way Houston's been rolling it.
But see, I know we're talking AL East, but since you brought that up too, it's that division, like you said, they've had deep runs, but like last year, Chicago wins the division, they lose in the first round. A couple years after that, Cleveland won a division, they lost in the first round. I know Cleveland got to the World Series. Kansas City, those two teams,
Detroit
Kansas City
got
had
to a World Series.
those two teams,
In the
Kansas
last
City had
12
in
years.
14 and 15 when they won it too. Those teams are loaded, so they were going to beat anybody. But it seems like it's the weak scheduling, which is not anybody's fault. It's just the way the division's constructed.
Right.
More often than not, in that division comes back to haunt you.
That's right, though. Detroit did make it to the World Series 2012. Yep.
They got swept by the Giants.
Well, still, I mean, that means you're talking
still
3 out of
made
the 5 teams in the division have made it to a World Series, one of which has won it. Well, one of them was 1 game away from winning it, blowing a 3-1 lead in Cleveland. But, I mean, I think you look around baseball, how many other divisions can say over half of their teams have made it to the World Series in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
I was gonna say NL West, but it's been the Dodgers. Well, actually, yeah, NL West. Giants were there 3 times. Dodgers have been there 3 times.
Okay, so 2 out of the 5. That's not over half.
Let's go. The East. Boston. Boston.
Okay.
That's the only one. In the last 10 years, last time Yankees were there, 2009. The East has 3 of them. The only one not to go is.
I would say
the
NL
only
East,
2 not
actually.
to go are Minnesota and Chicago.
Right. How about NL East? Because Philly, Atlanta, and Washington, right? Did Philly make one?
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the NL East and then the Central. NL Central, no. NL West, no. So only 2 out of the 6 divisions in baseball can claim that title.
NL Central had Cardinals one.
The Cardinals.
2. Wait, hold on, let me add it.
Cardinals
11,
and Cubs.
13. 3.
Who else from the Central? Wait.
Cardinals twice and the Cubs.
Well, that's still only 2 teams, not how many times you made it.
I'm just saying we're going divisions. I'm just listing them.
Fair enough. Yeah. But no, only 2 out of the 6 divisions can claim they've had 3 or more teams make it.
Philadelphia like 2008. So
yeah, that's when they won it.
That was
so they don't count.
They don't count.
Yeah, they're out.
Okay. Well, are we sold on Boston finishing last though in this division in the AL East? Because I feel like they've made a decent bit of moves here, but I don't know how to feel about them.
I can't believe it, man.
I do not think they finished last.
I don't think they finished last.
So in that case, who do you guys have finishing last?
I got Baltimore slipping back down. After what I just said, I think.
Okay.
I think I'm not saying they. In a way, you could say they sold, but I don't know. I think after that turnaround they had, winning 10 games in a row or whatever it was, I think they could have done a little bit more to add. But they chose not. Somewhat stay neutral. I didn't like the George Lopez move. Made it seem like I said we kind of expect that, but I don't. I think Boston made. I'm not saying Boston had a great deadline. I think it was more confusing for me because they sold and then they also bought. I don't think they knew what they wanted to do. To me, it was kind of like they were trying to retool, just trying to get something this final stretch, see what happens on the last 2 months. But I think they did enough, Boston, to get on a little bit of a run here. They're game back over 500 now. They're only half a game behind Baltimore. And Baltimore can stay where they're at too, but I think it's more likely Boston catches them. I think Tampa stays where we're at in third. So I think the only really switch up we have is going to be Baltimore and Boston in this division. To me.
Yeah, that's fair, Matt. How do you think this division rolls down?
I don't think Baltimore will slip off. I know they got rid of Trey Mancini, which could be a pretty big piece gone. But that dude was, he was the longest tenured Oriole, at the time. So I think they're gonna have time to adjust to that. Yeah, I think their time in trying to adjust to his loss might have them drop a little bit. I don't know, but you could see Tampa Bay just taking a fart and going all the way down.
I
could see that too.
This is a good time of the year, though, that we do see big teams like that fall off. Remember the Padres, last year before? They were up there in the conversation with San Francisco and the Dodgers pretty much the entire season. We hit the trade deadline, and they completely tanked off. I think they finished, barely at 500.
I could be wrong, but I don't. Tampa's just one of those teams to me. They're always in the conversation. They always find a way to add. They always find a way to add something. I know it's past the deadline, but they always find a way to plug guys in. They usually have a pretty strong top half of their minor league system. They brought up Wander Franco last year, who actually has still been contributing. I just think they always find a way. The more times than not, you don't see them slip. You see them stay where they're at or climb up compared to slipping. I think that kind of speaks to the way they do things over there, and I think that they're going to stay where they're at. I don't think they're catching Toronto, and that's why, like I said, I think the only switch up is the bottom 2 teams.
Okay. Well, let's head AL Central. I think still pretty interesting race because first place is still opened up. It's one of the few divisions where first place is still, in contention in a very tight race. Cleveland's 1 game back, Chicago's 2 games back, and all 3 teams, they're playing it pretty well. The only thing here, I don't like Chicago. I don't like the direction they're moving in. And the big thing, when you look at stats from last year into this year, especially that differential that I love seeing, especially when you play this many games. Differential does tell a pretty big picture of how you've played. And right now they have a negative run differential. They're 52 and 51. So they're a game above 500 with a negative differential. I don't like that. Their expected win-loss is 50-53, so they're better than what they're expected to be at the moment based on their differentials in that category. But when you look from last year, no team that made the playoffs had a negative differential. That's going to hold true. You have to be able to put up runs, and you have to stop runs on the other side if you're going to make the playoffs. If you're going to survive the last 2 months of baseball, you have to be a good all-around team, and Chicago's not. They've been winning close games. They find ways to pull it out, but eventually your luck runs out. I think Chicago falls out of this race. I don't think they fall back to Detroit and Kansas City. I think they kind of just stay a mid-tier 500 team to end out the season. And I think that leaves Minnesota and Cleveland battling it out. When I see the way these two teams are playing, they're about as even as can be when you look at them overall. To Minnesota, they're perfectly on their expected win-loss record. So is Cleveland. Whoever makes the big step out of the trade deadline here and find some momentum to roll through these next 2 months is going to win it. I think it's a coin flip at the moment between these two teams. I want to say Cleveland's on their way up here, especially, they've had young guys really start showing up in big ways, and I feel like they're developing. As I said yesterday, there's talk inside the organization. They feel a wild card spot is in the running this year, but they don't feel like this team is going to reach their potential till next season. And I think Minnesota's at their potential right now. I think this is their season to win the division yet again. So I think I got the Twins finishing out the strongest here in the Central, Cleveland finishing at second, Chicago staying around 500 and third, and Detroit, they didn't sell too much, so I think they stay in fourth. And with the way Kansas City sent out some of their big guys like Whit Merrifield, I think they're in full sell mode. So I got Kansas City taking it last. So I think the order stays the exact same for the Central to finish out the season.
I like that. I think Cleveland can honestly make a run. I think.
I'm not saying they can. I think Minnesota's where they are now. Cleveland, they're going to be there next year.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have that team next year. Wait till all these young guys really, they already have the chemistry with each other. Now you got Will Benson up there now. I know it took him a while to get there. He was a first rounder in 2018, so it took him a minute to get up there. We were talking with our colleague yesterday. It took him, right, Mike? It took 2 years, and with Mahoning Valley, he spent a lot of time with Akron.
That's not the greatest, spending 2 years at the Scrappers. I'm just saying.
No, it's
but
not.
He's turned around.
Sometimes it takes longer for players to develop. He's only 24 years old too. So, he was young. He was a kid. I bet you he was the youngest in that draft class. He was drafted with Bieber and Aaron Savali, and of course they came up quicker. But he was just a kid. He got drafted right out of high school. So, Will Benson, I really think he could be a good addition. I love Oscar Gonzalez. We've sent Framiel down. We don't really have too many options with him anymore. I think we can bring him up and send him down 2 more times, and then you have to DFA him. So I like the direction we are. I like our young core, kind of like the Pirates. They have a good young core. I think they have a couple other pieces to add. But, we're a young team, too, now. We're all young.
Okay, but the difference is Cleveland develops way better than Pittsburgh does.
Yeah.
Way better.
They do.
I think both teams, like you're saying, they're both in good spots, small market teams. I talked about yesterday with Alec. That's what you have to have is deep farms. They both have that.
They do.
And I think Pittsburgh's, ranked top 6 or 7. Cleveland's in the top 10 as well. I think Pittsburgh's, 1 or 2 spots ahead. But they're close. They're both really close.
Yeah.
But they develop a lot better. That's why I think it could be a little bit sooner for Cleveland, a little bit, more balance for them.
Point about them developing it better.
Yeah.
I think they develop them quicker too, because we see big names come out of the Pirates country all the time. They put some big names out there, but I feel like Cleveland just continues to push them out and throw them through that grinder and put them into Major League Baseball, send them out all over everywhere. And I feel like Pittsburgh, I think they develop them into bigger players sometimes, but the frequency isn't as quick with Cleveland. That's why Cleveland, they'll have a down year, but then they'll be right back into the mix of things in a year or two. While you see Pirates, they'll have a good stretch, but then it takes them a lot longer to get back to that spot.
Well, because and that's why I said you have to be in this position, because the last decade under the previous GM, Neil Huntington, they couldn't do that. They didn't have a deep enough system where it's not like it sucked, but it just wasn't as deep as now, where, like you're saying, in Cleveland, they lose guys, you could plug guys right back in, retool, rebuild on the fly, and they weren't able to do that. But I think I'd take that back. I don't want to say Pittsburgh develops well in the minor league system, just not when they get to the major leagues. Because you see guys hit really well down in AAA and AA and pitch very well, and they come up and they struggle right away more often than they succeed. Cleveland doesn't do that. I think it's part because they have a way better manager, first of all, and they have better bench coach and coaching staff. So you have that too. With a bunch of young guys, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, Tito knows how to put everything together down there. That's a big thing. In that dugout, I mean, it's down to a science for that guy.
Oh, it sure is. But going on here, Mike and I were talking about this when we did a couple of shows by ourselves. We think Chicago's over. They're done. Cleveland owns them. Minnesota owns them. I don't see them coming up anymore. They're done. And
Matt,
like, what you say with the negative run differential, I mean, yeah. I
want to kind of go deeper into that. I think they're done, but let's keep in mind, I think the reason I think they're done is because they haven't shown me all year. I know they're game over 500, but they haven't shown me too much all year. They haven't shown me they can beat Cleveland or Minnesota, for that matter. But, Matt, they're in third place right now. They're only a game behind Cleveland.
Yeah, I know.
They have a good series against Cleveland. Say if it's a 3-game series, 4-game series, they take 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, or they sweep that series. They take the spot there.
That's all it takes.
So, I mean, I was trying to pull up the schedule here. I think they're more odds against them, or they're done. I think I said that last week. I think we both agreed. But I'm not going to sit here and act like there's not a chance. They just got to turn it around. They really have to start playing better. They didn't really make any moves at the deadline, so they got to ride with what they had. They got Detroit coming up, who they're ahead of. Detroit, the bottom feeder. Good series against Seattle and Tampa Bay coming up after that. Those are tough ones. Then they got 5-game series against Cleveland in Cleveland. So if they want to do anything, it's got to be this next
road
week.
Too. We lost to Arizona. We got to finish them off. I mean, we should be, like I said yesterday, I mean, they took 10 innings to beat Arizona. Arizona's horrible. Like,
wasn't it 11?
Huh? It was 11,
Wasn't it an 11-inning game?
I'm pretty sure it was an 11-inning game, yeah.
Okay.
But they lost.
I remember just seeing the clip of the walk-off, and I'm pretty sure it was the 11th.
Yeah, it was 11 innings. But, yeah, I mean, extra innings to beat them, and then they lose to them yesterday. Then you have to finish them off, and then you have a 4-game series against Houston. So we're going to have to see. This is where we're really going to see our young team come around. We got to see Quan come in. We got to see, Benson and Gonzalez. And, of course, I mean,
Cleveland is leading right now, by the way, 1-0 in the top of the 5th.
Oh, they're playing right now?
Yep.
All right.
So much your team.
Hey, I just got home, all right? I don't look at the sports until I get home.
Well, Matt, you mentioned the Houston series, and I was talking about that too. That's big because is it a 4-game series? Either way, it's still a big series. But anyway,
Cleveland's got 4 games against Houston, then a 3-game stand against the Tigers. Then they have a 3-game against Blue Jays, 4-game against the Tigers, then 3 games against the White Sox, 2 games against the Padres, 4 games against the Mariners, 3 games against the Orioles, then back to the Mariners for 3 games. Then they got the Royals, then the Twins. So, yeah. I mean, getting up into this next month, it's a grind.
They got
that first or second matchup with the Mariners in August or September?
Yeah, late August. That's that first matchup with the Mariners in Seattle.
Okay.
August 25th.
All right, September 3rd, I'll be going to see them. It's Franmil Reyes bobblehead. Like, come on.
He might not be on the team by then.
No, he's not.
Huh?
He's not on the team. He's in AAA.
No, he's not. He's in Columbus.
Might be kind of a collector bobblehead to get, though.
It won't be worth anything.
Right.
No, but it'll be another bobblehead to add, I guess. I'm trying to get a lot of them, like Mike has. Mike has a lot.
I gotta get something behind me on
this wall. I want to get in the background, but it's kind of hard.
Since Mike, you got that on-air sign. Like, man, I want one too. I was on Amazon looking at them. The good ones are like $50. I mean,
well, It was at Hobby Lobby, I think, for like $60. My sister got it for 15.
See ya.
Let's go to Hobby Lobby.
It was on sale for like 70% off or something like that.
Jeez.
And
I got a couple.
it was a birthday present. My birthday's in
Once
October,
I
but
take
she gave it to me
care
now.
once I take care of some YSU tuition, I'm gonna buy some more stuff because like all my stuff in my room, like you guys see in my room, like all this stuff is gonna be added to my man cave once I get an apartment or a house.
Dear.
So as much as I buy, like it's all going to the man cave. There's one thing I gotta top off, which was probably gonna be the last thing I buy, is 75-inch flat screen TV right in the smack of the middle of it. They're $1,600 at Sam's Club.
Jeez.
That's a car payment.
Don't go to
That's
Sam's
a lot
Club.
of payment. You can buy a lot with $1,600, man.
Go to like Walmart or something.
Yeah, you can get a big TV for much cheaper. Do not buy a TV
Go to
from Sam's Club.
All right. I want to
find them online.
All right, let's hop down to the AL West, boys, and stop talking about buying stuff for the time being. But speaking of buying stuff, Houston bought themselves a lot here at the trade deadline, and I think they've sealed up their spot here in the AL West. May have sealed up a lot of bets as well down in Vegas and online for them to take this whole World Series. Mike, we know your thoughts on them already. I like Seattle, I think, to finish it off here in second. I would love to see Texas Rangers make this run and pull something out of the hat, but I think I would just kind of like to see them maybe get back to 500 to finish out the season. But I think this order stays the same here for the West. I don't see much changing up. It's kind of sat this way for the last couple of months, so I'm not convinced anything's going to make a big change up here in the final couple months of the season.
And you know what? I like what the Mariners
actually
did.
Seattle's beating New York Yankees right now 6-1 in the bottom of the fourth.
I did see that. They put up 6 in the first inning. But
good team.
I do Mariners, man. As much as I talk about Houston, yes, I do like what Seattle did. I think they made a couple trades yesterday. I didn't even know happened until after the deadline. They picked up what was it? Kirk Casale and Matthew Boyd, a pitcher from the guy from the Tigers. I like those two pickups, and Luis Castillo. So they have a pretty good lineup that showed this run they've been on over the last couple of months or so. They can have a good enough offense, and I think adding those two pitchers, they had decent pitching before, obviously, to be in this position. Add Luis Castillo, who, like I said yesterday, I think he has next year under control. I don't know about the following year, but you're at least getting one more year out of him for the whole next year. That's big for them, and I really think that they're in a good position roster-wise. I think it's a pretty deep roster. It's pretty, I don't want to say loaded, but it's balanced. I like them to stay where they're at too, Alec. And we'll see what happens down the stretch or what happens with the playoff format. They're a team to look out for in the playoffs.
Seattle. Yeah, they are. I really believe they are. I believe Seattle could be one of the teams to possibly knock off the New York Yankees. You could
I'm not going that far. No. Matt, you just hate the Yankees.
He does just
hate. You just hate the Yankees. Yeah, Alec, we're talking to Richie before the Scrapper game yesterday. Matt's like, Cleveland. He's like, Yankees are going to lose to somebody, and he's like, if they play Cleveland, he's like, there's, what if we beat them? And Richie's like, no way, that's happening.
Listen,
Cleveland never.
Listen, Cleveland never beat the Yankees. Cleveland never beat the Yankees.
Exactly.
So they wouldn't beat them. They wouldn't. But that'd be so funny, though.
No. 1,000 times, no.
Just imagine now. Like, I would be.
Oh, you can imagine all you want, but it ain't happening.
This would be getting wrong. I'm just saying.
If Cleveland comes in, takes them down, and then what? We get swept by Houston or somebody. I wouldn't care. Just take them out.
I miss that.
Guys, I'm so ready to ring this bell, man. I need to college football here right now. I missed the bell. You just can't use the bell for baseball. It just doesn't work. Maybe once we get down to the World Series, but I mean, I was able to use it for basketball, not NBA, obviously, but college sports. I need to.
Not that much for that either.
What's
that? It wasn't even that much for that either. It was more. Like
use it for high school, Alec.
We can. We got to get there first. Is what I'm saying, though.
You got to earn it, though. You can't just hand it out to every game. You got to earn. You got to earn for that belt. You have to earn first of all for it to be worthy of your game, and for it to be rung. You can't just pass it out, right, Alec? I'm making the rules for you.
Hey, man, I know how the bell works. I used it last year. It wasn't just handed out.
Sorry.
The bell's a very serious matter here on the show. It's the one thing we got.
Yeah. We need more
Our
props.
calling card, the bell.
We need more props.
We do
Yeah,
need
we
more
do.
props.
We need it on air.
Yeah, Mike, you got to put it on that
I
right there on
can't.
top of the closet.
That would just wouldn't look right there.
I can put it right.
You can put it on top of your closet, Matt.
Yeah, I could. It could fit up there.
I think you got more space Webbers than I do.
I'm gonna put it on the ceiling behind me.
I mean, if you guys can't see it, obviously, I'll take a picture.
I
but it
saw a
looks-
couple
looks pretty
different
sweet.
versions of it too. Like there's the one that you have, but they have one that's circle. One they have a circle one that just says live now. I like that one too.
Yeah.
There's a couple different ones that I'm like, man, all right.
All righty. Well, we talked AOS. Let's head it over to the NL West. And before we get started, boys, we got to take a moment here to talk about the loss we had last night and take another moment of silence. We took one yesterday for Bill Russell, but Vince Scully, the legendary sports broadcaster of the Los Angeles Dodgers, spent over 20 years calling their games, longest tenured sports broadcaster in the history of sports. And obviously, I mean, he's kind of done what we all want to do at some point, right? So, I mean, get there and be with one for a long time. Yeah, Mike's got the Vince Scully bobblehead. So, boys, let's take a moment of silence here for Vince Scully. All righty. Well, let's get into the NL West and his team, the LA Dodgers.
Hey, I don't think he called for 20 years. I think it was like 67 years.
I said more than 20 years. I said over 20 years, I think is what I said.
Oh, it's over.
Well, here, Matt.
20 years. He
called
started like 1950, man.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Oh, yeah.
He called Brooklyn Dodgers games.
Oh, yeah. He was Brooklyn.
Matt, he called 25 different World Series, 12 All-Star games. I think 50-something years with the Dodgers, going back to Brooklyn. Legendary.
67 years.
Yeah.
2016 is when he retired. So 2016 minus 1950.
A long freaking time.
A long
Just go that. Was that 66?
1950. My grandma was born in 1953. No, she wasn't. 1943. So she was a kid.
Yeah.
When he started.
I mean, he was 94 when he just passed away. So I mean,
he lived
he lived one hell of a life.
That's a whole life.
And Alex,
I would even call 80. 80 would be a full life.
Even with Bill Russell, 88 years old. that. I mean, people forget people are living a lot longer now than they used to. Like 88 years old, 90 whatever Vince Scully was. Like that's a long time to live. And he's just that great. And I heard people talking about. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry, but it's just a coincidence that like two of the biggest sports icons has passed away in like this within 4 days. Yeah, Bill Russell passed away. He changed basketball. He changed it. And, then Vince Scully, who, really established that, hey, sports broadcasting is the real deal. Like, this is the guy you look at. Like, I know there's a couple other names in there, like Keith Jackson and all those other guys, and John Madden. But Vince Scully was baseball. He was the guy you turned on, back in, and he really established it because back in 1950, there was no TV. It was radio. So you
know what the thing is, Matt?
What is it?
I even heard I had your Cleveland game on before we came on to do the show, and they were obviously talking about Vince Scully, Underwood, and Rick Manning. And the biggest thing that Vince Scully always said and told them that they were saying specifically, their job is to call the game on TV and especially even radio for people that aren't there and tell them what's happening. Vince Scully did that and then some. Like, I remember the day. I was younger, watching baseball. My dad told me about Vince Scully. He grew up watching him. He called the 79 World Series that the Pirates last won.
Yeah.
That's how my dad started liking him when he was a kid. And he, I know you guys call games and stuff. I'm been doing more on the podcast than you do calling games, but even with radio, it's all sports media. You have to tell the story, and that's what Vince Scully did.
It's all about telling the story. That's how we do it. Alex, you still in here?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was letting you guys take the stage.
Okay. Like Alec and I we tell the story. We don't just call. When we call games, we think of other things to call. Like we tell stories. So Alec, come back in. There you are. Like,
I'm here.
I can remember Brookfield games we do. We talk about what's going on outside. We tell it like we are on the radio. I
Paint
know
the
we
picture.
got a little. I know we got the little camera, but I mean, we talk about fire trucks that are going down the street. We talk the lightning strike event where we turned the camera around and started talking about college football. Like we get into it. That's what I love about it.
Entertainment business.
It's all about entertaining. It's all about call the game, tell them what's going on, but like, I mean,
Have fun.
Have fun with it. I always have fun. There's a couple of times where I had to go radio or audio only because my camera wasn't working, and you gotta be like, oh, here comes Brookfield with their the all blue uniform with the gold on it. You gotta come out and say it.
Yep. All right, well, let's get back into baseball here. We'll start off with his team, the Dodgers. I mean, I think clear favorite right now to take the NL West, continue on this run they're at. I really think that this division pretty much stays the same. I don't see any change-ups coming. San Diego's a lock for second. They made a lot of moves here. They bought a really solid team here at the deadline. San Francisco made some moves, but I don't see them making that late season push like they did last year. So I got San Fran staying in third. Arizona and Colorado. I actually think Arizona is going to stay above Colorado in this rate. They both have 46 wins, but Colorado, their differential is terrible. They have the worst pitching in baseball this season.
I beg to differ on that.
Well, tied up with Washington right now for the most runs allowed. So that's the stat I'm going off of. Mike, I know your team is a very close third there for worst pitching. Actually, I think they're fourth behind Kansas City at the moment. But those runs allowed is what I'm going off of. That's the most important stat for pitching is those runs allowed. That's how I'm putting this out there.
I know.
But I mean, Colorado, they've been just terrible in that stat category. They still have a winning record at home somehow, but they can hardly win on the road. So I got Colorado keeping it in last. So I don't have any change-ups coming for the West, even after the big deadline.
No, I don't know how the Padres can. I mean, it's not impossible, but
I think they pulled away from San Francisco, but I don't think they, I think they can get closer to the Dodgers, but I can't see them overtaking the Dodgers. That's the thing.
I say they finish with they'll be 4-3 games back.
Cleveland now leads at 4-0 over the D-backs.
Yes. Sorry.
Then he just stops talking.
Yep.
Are you done or?
No, I'm not done. I'm trying to look who hit it.
Mike, what are your thoughts on
Dodgers here? Dodgers. It's not always our teams.
Well,
I think it's I think I agree with you. I think it probably stays the way it is. I don't know about Colorado. Maybe Arizona's not great either. They're separated by a game and a half. Maybe that's the only switch up. But no, I think it stays where it is. I don't think Padres catch the Dodgers. By the way, Yankees found a way to get rid of Joey Gallo. I don't think we touched on that. Yeah. Then I didn't think that was possible. Dodgers or something, but I don't think he's going to contribute that much. But anyway, I think it stays the way it is. I think it's too much of a hole at this point for San Diego. I agree with Matt. I think they could probably cut it down to 4 or 5 games maybe. But do I think they could beat them in the playoffs? I do, especially what they did yesterday. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just say I don't think San Diego's taking that first spot. I'll talk postseason when we get there. I don't see any point talking postseason until you're closer down to it. It's too unpredictable, especially in baseball. I mean, it's just impossible to say who's going to win that thing because baseball flips on a dime. But I think when you look at the pitching in the Dodgers organization, they've only allowed 338 runs so far, which is the best in all of baseball that I'm looking at here. So it's crazy to see that their pitching has overtaken the Yankees. Their runs scored have now closed into the Yankees, now just 21 runs back from what the Yankees have done in that stat. So the differential between the two is +5 towards the Yankees. It's a close race between those two teams, and they really have pulled away as the two best teams in baseball.
Well, and I think with Dodgers pitching staff, it's still really deep. I'm not saying it's not. Tony Gonsolin, Kershaw, Julio Urias, Walker Buehler's still in there somewhere. But I don't think we even mentioned. I think kind of flew under the radar yesterday that they lost Mitch White. I think they traded him to I forget what team, but that came out somewhere at the end. I think he had a good year. I don't think he was there last year, but he's a young guy that had a good year. I think it's a significant loss for their pitching staff. I don't think it's going to make or break them, but that's something to talk about too coming to the playoffs. Because Alec, we talked about yesterday how much pitching is important in the regular season, but also in the playoffs more magnified. I think it's a under the radar kind of type of loss for them that nobody really talked about.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next division here, Mike. It's yours, the NL Central.
We have
to. I don't have the Pirates finishing last. Maybe I don't know. Their pitching is so bad, and you guys can't score. I honestly, I do think Pittsburgh.
And they blow.
I'm not gonna lie. I got Pittsburgh.
They blow leads too, man. Like they had. I know the game we were at. They blew like that. It was the 8th inning. Like they blew it. I mean, they blew so many leads late. And if I was a Pirates fan, Mike, I'd be pulling my hair out. Like, dear God. I'm
gonna say this for like the 100th time.
I know you only say Pirates fans are the only ones that understand how bad they are, but like, I understand because you tell us so much about.
I'm sorry, you don't know because your team's normally competitive. I know you've been to a few games with me and stuff, but I even told that Philly fan that was in front of us.
Yeah,
he actually, he looked at me and he was saying, I feel bad because he's a Philly fan that didn't hate Pittsburgh, which I give him credit for. You just don't get it because I'm sitting here expecting yesterday for them. I know too many teams didn't want Josh Van Meter and Tsutsugo. By the way, he did get DFA'd. That's why I'm wearing this. It's a good day that he's DFA'd. Now we just need Van Meter the heck out of Pittsburgh, and I'll be really happy.
Van Meter shouldn't even play professional baseball. How did he even get there?
I'm not done yet. I'm not. When we're forced, I even told I know they won last night, but I'm reading stuff yesterday about trade deadlines. They make a meaningless trade before the cash considerations for a pitcher from the Blue Jays. Right before deadline end, that meant nothing. But I'm sitting here. I know too many teams didn't want Van Meter and Tsutsugo, but it's like, gosh, we're sitting here with these young guys, and we're still playing these dead weight players. That's the frustrating part. I'd say this for all my teams, Matt. You know how loyal I am to my teams. As much as I bash on the Pirates, I'm always going to love them. But it's like I'm so loyal to this team. When is it finally going to pay off? Like I sit here night after night, and I'm forced to watch these. I don't want to be disrespectful here, but I'm forced to watch these bums in the lineup that do not contribute, have no reason to be on the roster, have no future on this team, and I have to sit here and watch it. I'm sorry. I know you've been to a couple games, like you said, but if you just don't understand the pain. It's I can't even describe it. I really can't.
It's horrible. He's Batman. Tsutsugo was worse than Van Meter. Tsutsugo was batting 171. Van Meter's 184. Like, dear gosh, you know what? Their on base percentage.
But I'm going to stick to Alec. I know what you just said. I'm going to stick to what I said before the season. They are not going to finish last place, as bad as I'm saying they are.
Mike, I hope for you that they don't, because it was looking good there for a while too. At the beginning of the season, it's like, all right, it's not going to be a good year, yeah, but maybe it won't be awful. And I feel like it's kind of sunk back down to awful territory.
Reds aren't going to stay where they're at. They sold to more than Pittsburgh did. Cubs, I'm surprised they didn't get rid of Contreras and Happ. That was kind of shocking.
But Mike, your team's differential of negative 152 is the second worst in baseball behind the Nationals.
Well, because they've had like 5 blowouts.
Yeah. 5 blowouts, though. It's negative 152. You've allowed 520 runs. You only scored 368, which is ahead of Detroit, but just ahead of Oakland. You're behind Kansas City in that category. So what's that make you? Third? I think in worst for scoring runs, you're what, 4th or 5th in runs allowed.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad right now. Chicago and Cincinnati, I mean, they both sold in a big way, and that might be the one difference. Pittsburgh, they didn't really have anything to sell, so you might stay around the 398 mark, and Cincinnati and Chicago might dip under 400 as well. It's gonna be a tight race for last place in the NL Central.
Okay, let me just say this. Again, I think it's probably more likely they finish last than they get out of it, but it's still going to be weird because, like you said, this bottom half this has to be the worst half of a division in any of these 6 divisions of baseball.
Yeah,
but again, they had pretty much these similar numbers too when they were in 3rd place like 2 weeks ago. So it's again, I'm not defending them. I know how bad they are. Trust me, I watch them every night. I don't know why I do it to myself, but those stats have been there for when they were in 3rd place. Even as bad as they were record wise in 3rd place because the division is pathetic. But I don't know. We'll see. And I'm glad they did not get rid of Brian Reynolds. I don't know who put these stories out that he was getting traded. There was never even a question that he was going to get traded. I don't know why that stuff was out. It's just Pittsburgh, people trying to paint Pittsburgh as this first place that I know they don't keep people, but it's just to add to that narrative. And Dave Bednar, I'm glad they kept those 2 guys because that's saying that, like, we believe we're getting close and we're going to keep 2 guys that are younger that have been here for a couple of years that are experienced. That part I liked about the deadline yesterday. I'm done talking about that now. We'll talk about the top half.
All right.
Cardinals.
I like Milwaukee. I'm not going to lie. Their pitching isn't great, but they know how to hit the cover off the ball. This is a team that's taken the NL Central the last couple of years. I think I got confidence that they're going to be staying on top. I like St. Louis this season. They got a good team together, but they're a wild card team.
Game's back.
This is weird because that move with Josh Hader was kind of shocking. Not shocking, but it just wasn't discussed. I think they did need, as much as they do hit Alec, like you said, they put up a lot of runs. They have a lot of big bats in their lineup. I think they could have used another one because last night, I know it was one game, it's baseball, but even the last couple of times they played that I've watched them, because that's the only time I watched them was against my team, they haven't really put up too many good runs or too big amount of runs. I think they could have used another bat or 2. Their pitching, like you said, I still do like it as much as it's not been good as I said it was to start the season. But I still like having the 3 guys with Corbin Burns and Woodruff, and I forget the other one too. But I think it's their division to lose. I think the Cardinals didn't really do too much. They got 2 pitchers with Quintana and Jordan Montgomery too. That trade, I wouldn't talk about the Yankees. I don't understand that trade, trading Montgomery for Harrison Bader when they don't need another outfielder. They could have kept Jordan Montgomery. I thought they were going to try to clear it up for Jorge, for Lopez from Marlins, but they didn't. But I agree. I think the Brewers keep it.
All right, boys. I got to take a step aside here out of baseball and talk about in Ohio recruit Devin Royal. I mentioned it yesterday. Was set to make his decision. It got moved to today. And Devin Royal just announced as the number 2 basketball player in the state of Ohio. He's going to Ohio State. So the Buckeyes and Chris Holtman kept it in state. Top 2 recruits are going to the 6-1-2.
True.
And I love it. Also, Master Teague just signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So you got another running back.
No way.
Yeah, well, Pittsburgh had to put, what was it, Mick Nichols, I think, on the injured reserve, so it opened up a roster spot.
They cut what's his name?
Did you see, Matt, yesterday Najee Harris or 2 days ago, he got a little ankle problem in training camp?
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I don't know, maybe depth-wise, like you said, they lost somebody, but good pickup if they use him some way.
Master Teague. All right.
Yep.
All right,
let's get back into baseball here. NL East, final one down. Who wants to take this? Matt, you're the Atlanta man, so you go for it.
All right. So, Atlanta Braves, they've fallen off a little bit. They're sitting 2.5 out of first now. This is probably where we're going to see the Mets probably win the division. You never know. Still right there. And they're amazing teams. Like, nobody else is touching them. It's going to be between Atlanta and the Mets to take it. Philly's sitting back there 10 games behind out of first. So I like Atlanta. We'll see. I like the young core they got. They got some people out of that Chavez trade, I believe. They did trade Will Smith away. I didn't like that too much, but we're going to just have to sit back and watch. They're a heck of a team still. I like how Matt Olson has fit in here. And this team is set. There's a lot of guys on there that are signed through this decade. They could potentially get a couple more World Series in there. Maybe not this year, but you might see Atlanta come back and get a couple more within this decade. So I like this team. We're just going to have to see. Austin Riley is hitting the cover off the ball. I like the way he's been doing. But
got a big extension too.
What's that?
He got a big contract too.
He sure did. Was it 7-8 years? So something like that. So, but going off that, I mean, New York has definitely changed around the way they play ball. I mean, yeah, they added Max Scherzer, but I mean, the only time was on their side. I believe it was going to happen sooner or later. I mean, they've been so bad the past couple of years that, I mean, not bad, but they've fallen off tremendously in the past couple of years. And, this year, I mean, they're making the doubters wrong, including me. So we might see the Mets take it this year. A lot of people are saying New York Mets, Yankees, World Series, which I totally believe is not going to happen. I believe it's going to be torn up. So, at least on the NL side.
Yeah, because we talked about yesterday. I mean, I know it's so wide open. I think it's probably more likely on paper, at least, that the Yankees get there.
Even if I sit here right now and say Atlanta could go back, it's not unethical for me to say that because it's so wide open.
Any team, any of the
look at the Padres now. We talked about the Brewers. Even the Cardinals are sitting in there. I mean, they get some teams in there not to meddle with. It's not going to be an easy ride for anybody. Out
of the 12 teams in there, even when it was 10 teams last year before it added 2 more teams, anybody gets in, Matt. You saw it last year. We saw it with other teams like I talked about. That wild card teams going to win. If you get in, anybody has a chance. If you sit here and tell me that, I don't even think it's a stretch to say Atlanta can win it again. But if you sit here and tell me if Philly gets in, you make a good argument for them to go and run. I can't argue it because it's baseball. That's why we sit here and talk about it.
They've been really good on the road.
And they've been heating up a little bit too.
They're 29-23. They have a losing record against teams over 500, but I think when you put that team into the postseason, they made some nice moves here at the deadline. I definitely see them potentially making that run because they've actually been better on the road than they have been at home. So them being a road team all the way through this postseason is going to be beneficial for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If they can get that spot.
I agree.
Matt, I think with the NL East, I really haven't been questioning the Mets all year. I know it was big, when are they going to fall apart? I really didn't think they were going to fall apart. I said this the first month of the season. I think I told you this last week too. Last week they're playing the Yankees. When I see how serious Max Scherzer takes his any day he pitches, any preparation, I think that now they get Jacob DeGrom back too. Last night he came back. I know they lost, but he looked really good last night. So I got Jacob DeGrom and Max Scherzer and some of the other pitchers they have behind him. I think it's the Mets. They're going to win this one. I think because Max Scherzer, when you get a guy like him, not only talent wise, but like I said, what he does attitude wise for the locker room, for his.
What happened?
Starts when we have him on the mound to make starts, how electric he is. It's the Mets. I think it's not to lose, but I think it's more looking better for the Mets.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Did I say something funny?
Nope.
No.
My prediction here for the NL East, I like the Mets as well, Mike. I got them staying on top. They've been phenomenal at home. And when you talk about a team closing things down towards the end of the season, you got to be great at home. They've been good on the road too, way above 500 there. And against 500 teams, they're the only team right now in the NL East that has a winning record against teams over 500. So I like the match. They're above their expected win-loss totals. Stats are in their favor. They've got good pitching. The run differential is plus 98. I like that. I'm a numbers guy. When I'm looking at these numbers, the Mets are favored right now. Atlanta made some decent moves here. I'm interested to see what direction they end up with going out of this run, but I see them taking second. I don't really see this division making any big change-ups here in the final stretch of the season. So I got Mets taking it. Atlanta's going to be a wild card team. I think the more interesting talk is who's getting the final wild card spot here in the National League, because I think Atlanta and San Diego have 2 of them, and I think that's going to be locked. But it opens the door for San Francisco or Philly, whoever makes that final stretch. And I think in the National League, I think that's the more interesting discussion. I mean, San Francisco was amazing last year, taking the West. But Cardinals. Philadelphia, they've been good on the road, like I'm saying. And that's a category where San Francisco has really struggled. They can't win on the road. They can't beat 500 teams. And they've struggled at home all in all. And I know Philly struggled at home. But I think when you really look at these two teams, I got to say, I think Philadelphia probably the favorite over San Francisco to take that final spot in the postseason out of the National League.
I know they had a big beat.
Philly's beating Atlanta right now, by the way, 3-1 in the bottom of the 9th.
And Philly got smacked yesterday, 13-1 by Atlanta. But they've been.
It's all about today.
it happens. Beatdowns happen.
Right.
Yeah, but I think Philly's a team. I think they had good moves like yesterday, like you said, and they've been playing pretty good baseball, and they don't have Bryce Harper back yet. That's something else if you're a Philly fan, to look forward to the final stretch. Getting a piece like him back.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that wraps up our baseball talk here for the trade deadline, final preparations. Probably take another check back in as we hit September and see who gets called up into the major leagues for those September call-ups. But it's going to be an interesting stretch. I hope we see some change-ups, because at the moment, I mean, it doesn't look like anything's going to change. It's been pretty stagnant for a while. The best teams have been the best teams. No one's really had that major fall-off in a while, and we haven't seen any post-All-Star break fall aparts just yet. I mean, looks like Tampa could be that way, 2-8 in the last 10, but we're going to see. I imagine we're going to see fireworks at some point. I'm just waiting for it to come along. So, any final thoughts here on baseball before we wrap up the show? Mike,
Arizona runs 4-2. Cleveland.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's something. But I mean, I think that's going to do it here for the show today. We're just about out of time anyway. Power Hour coming up next on Your Sports Network. I've been Alec Caberna. That's Matt Morrison and Mike Wolfgang. Hope you've all enjoyed the show. We'll see you tomorrow, actually, is when we'll see you. That's next time. But enjoy Power Hour up next.